All right, guys, back on Southeastern 16 with Max Barr. Another SEC basketball transfer heading
Another.
into the league. But, Max, another SEC basketball transfer heading to Lexington, Kentucky, because
Yes.
the Cats have picked up another one here. Jaylen Low from Pitts had a couple years there with the
Boom.
Panthers. And, yeah, I think, obviously a point guard addition here for a Mark Pope led team is always a significant thing because he's the guy that will certainly be helpful in running the show there for this very well executed offense. And so, very good pickup here, I think, for the Cats as they get a guy who came out as a sophomore here, 16.8 points per game last season with Pitt, averaged 5.5 assists, 4.2 rebounds. And yeah, just kind of someone that kind of does it all. Good facilitator, but obviously has also proven that he can score a bit.
Cats fans, here we go. Big Blue Nation, here we go. Been waiting. Been waiting for the booms, the gifts, the big time pickups. Already have Cam Williams, prospect from Tulane, and now here comes Jaylen Low Jr. out of Pitt, third team All ACC selection. There we go. One of the better players in the ACC this year. And Blake, you started to get there. I'm going to get you all the way there with him filling up this stat sheet. We had 5 double-doubles this year and a triple-double. Yeah, you heard me right, folks. Lowe had a triple-double this past year with points, rebounds, assists. 4, I believe. Yes, 4 of his triple/double doubles came points assists. Okay, to put that into perspective, you're talking about one of the best offensive creators, initiators, whatever words you want to use. He had the 6th best assist rate in ACC play at 6'3", 175. He's a little bit skinny, but he does have that height advantage at 6'3" over some point guards. He uses it to his advantage. Super quick, nice burst into the lane for those paint touch kick out threes. Blake, he can certainly fill it up scoring wise. The shooting numbers took a little bit of a dip. We will get into that a little bit, but first off, a very, very, very good offensive creator here.
Yeah, and I think we can go ahead and transition to the shooting numbers because I think it's
Yep.
important to put it in the context of the role that he played on this Pitt team this past year. I mean, he was the leading scorer. Leggett, I think, had 16. He averaged about 16 points per game, too. So I think, that was kind of a significant one there in terms of those two guys being your clear top 2 scorers on this Pitt team, right? And then from there, the numbers kind of fluctuate a little bit, but he was clearly the guy that if you're talking about game planning wise, the other team realizes that everything's kind of flowing through him with his Pitt team. And just again, too, for reference, I mean, which I think again is important. They were 17 and 15, started the year 12 and 2, and then really just had some struggles along the way in ACC play. Finished 8 and 12, lost their first ACC tournament game to Notre Dame. So a lot was put on his shoulders, right? And I think if you look at it from that standpoint, yes, he only shot 26.6% from 3. And it's not like he was one of those who just took a few threes, right? He took 154 of them, 41 of 154. So that's not exactly, probably the kind of percentage you're thinking if you're a Kentucky fan, wow, look how great of a three-point shooting team. We've had Kobe Bryant and all these other guys come in and make shots. Well, the percentages probably aren't going to wow you very much. But, Max, if we go back to what he did the year before, right? That's where I think it's interesting because his role probably a little bit different the year before. And if you do kind of go that route, well, those numbers are a bit better. He shot 35.2% the year before, and did it 31 of 88, so basically half the attempts, but shot a higher percentage. So, like you were saying before we started recording, this seems to be one of those where it's probably role grew exponentially on this Pitt team by necessity, probably. But I think on a Kentucky team where we're still waiting to see who else they're going to have there, and we talked about, we'll talk about the roster as a whole, but you wouldn't think he's going to be put in those same kind of positions to maybe have to force up a lot of shots, potentially, like he may have had to do on this Pitt team. And I think that kind of maybe allows him to get a little bit back into his groove about the role he should play and maybe not having to take 154 three-pointers next season.
Yeah, I would be shocked I would be shocked if the 3-point numbers don't come up. You watch his film; he's got a good-looking shot. It's a smooth lefty stroke.
It's smooth.
It's smooth. The lefty Cats, by the way, we got a lot of lefties
Right.
on the Cats this year. So yeah, I think similar to how in the press conferences, Final Four this week, Kelvin Sampson said, when they are looking for 3-point shooters, because Houston, obviously one of the number one stories with them this year was how good of a 3-point shooting team they were. You look at more than just the percentages. There's more to it. You got to look at, like you said, what the team is using them for, who's he surrounded by, how's the spacing, and all that. Speaking of spacing, okay, Lowe, his strength is his burst, his ability to create for others. He's best when he's surrounded by shooters. Would have been great on the Cats this year, to be honest. Nobody on Pitt made even 63s last year. Not even 60. Okay, so he had no spacing. There was nothing to unclog that lane at Pitt. This past year, Kentucky had 2 shooters get to 60. Kobe Brea and Jackson Robinson. Kobe Brea was in the 90s. Jackson Robinson would have been right there with him had he not gotten injured. Had 63s given all the time he missed. So you got to think that Lowe's efficiency numbers offensively are going to rise with the spacing. Now, obviously, as you look at in context of the roster right now, him next to Owe, 2 not high volume shooters. Reason for maybe, okay, well, how's this going to work out? Well, how's it going to work out? I think we need to add a shooter or 2 for the Cats here. There's still plenty of portal madness to go on. I think the way that this roster is building, the next thing in line, the next need would be a wing shooter, something like that. You pair that in with Lowe and Owe and Cam Williams, whatever they like to do with the versatile Cam Williams, and now you can start to see how this is going to come together here in the backcourt, Blake.
Well, you know what I like to do? I like to see how you perform against, the top competition. And I mean, this one's not it's not a mid-major transfer, so you don't just have a couple games to choose from. You have a pretty big sample size here of him playing against, upper tier teams. All right. So we'll start with, most recent games. Louisville, which, Kentucky fans wouldn't mind beating Louisville anytime they get a chance. But 16 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals in that game. In a 79-68 loss to Louisville. Keep in mind, you're going to talk about a lot of losses because Pitt just was not a team that seemed to ever really find their rhythm. A couple games against North Carolina, played pretty well. Scored 15 one time, scored 18 another time. Also, in the win they had against North Carolina in January, 18 points, 7 assists, 6 rebounds, 3 steals. The guy is just filling up the stat sheet, right? Clemson, 15 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, a steal. Duke, I mean, they lost 76-47. Not a lot to go on there, right? But 8 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 steals. So he's still doing things, right? And the way Duke probably game planned. He went 3 of 12 from the floor. It's Duke, right? They're sitting here with a chance to play for a national championship potentially. Now go to a couple games he had against SEC teams. Mississippi State. I mean, we know what happened to that game, Max. They went into Starkville and just got demolished. But he was the pretty much lone bright spot there. 19 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, and a couple steals. So you're seeing a pattern here. Look at a game that he had. Probably, I think this was his best game of the season, Max. I'm looking at it here from the numbers. 28 points in the overtime win against Ohio State. That was an overtime game. 28 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists. I think he had a block in that game. Played a game against LSU, 22 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists, 3 steals. These are SEC teams, right? And so if we're talking about that translating over, he just played in the ACC, which we know is down this year, but there's not any of those where sometimes we look at these guys and we're like, uh-oh, against the best teams, he didn't really do a whole lot. But this is a guy, even with all the stuff that he had on his plate here, and being the guy that everyone's game planning around, he still found a way against these upper tier teams or these SEC teams to have a lot of success.
Yeah, I know you like the Ken Pom player comps, so I'll save those. You want me to get? I was gonna save them for you, but I can give them to you.
You go for it.
Okay, two of his top player comps, real interesting. Trey Jones from Duke a few years ago, and James Akinjo. And it was I believe it was his last Arizona year. So you're talking, hey, those Trey Jones and James Akinjo, they played pretty similar in college. 2 physical, get into the lane, very efficient in the mid-range, type of guards, push shots, floaters, stuff like that. Very good in the pick and roll. Lowe is going to be great in this dribble handoff at the top of the key. He is just going to be, that's his bread and butter. But real quick, Blake, as I wrap up here, I wanted to talk about his defense just real quick, because I have seen in some message boards, in some Discords, Cats fans asking Pitt fans, hey, what are we getting here? What are your thoughts as a fan on Lowe? Love his creativity, his ability to get into the paint. Teams picked on him a little bit defensively, only 175, a little bit skinny. However, he makes up for it a little bit by generating steals. We'll have a steal or two each game. But the reason I wanted to bring that up, if you want to talk about a weakness with Lowe and his defense, look at that defensive improvement from the freshmen this past year with Perry, Chandler, and those guys. How much better their defense got as the year went on. If you do have a negative kind of pin you want to put on Lowe, and you're maybe talking about his physicality and his defense, I trust this staff to develop that pretty quickly. We just saw a few great examples this past season.
Yeah. I mean, again, I think this guy's going to fit in nicely with what they want to do offensively, knowing the approach they take in these games. A couple other quick notes here. You talk about the player comps this past season. So, some more interesting ones I thought here. Marcus Carr from Texas several years ago, I think, is an interesting one. Jaden Epps is one from Georgetown, I think, is another comp he has here on this list. And then Shabazz Napier from 2012. Now, the thing about that is, like, Napier I don't know how much he played that year, but we know what he went on to do. He went on to lead them to a championship. So, hey, those are nice comps to have, I think, when you're looking at the comparison and what this guy brings to the table. Again, former 4-star recruit. He was ranked in around the top 70, I think, in the 2023 class in the ESPN Top 100. So, yeah, like, this is a guy, I think, that's a lot of accolades, and I think just opening up some things now as he goes to Kentucky, you feel like this is going to be a situation where he can really thrive, knowing what we know about the returning roster already, plus what we think we know about the guys they're going to add to the mix. So it seems like the kind of point guard you really need to thrive, I think, in a Mark Pope type system. So,
Blake, I used to shoot hoops in the driveway, and I would yell, Shabazz Napier, right after I shot it. Do you think potentially maybe there's a young lefty out in Lexington, Jaylen Low, in the driveway? Hey,
it's coming.
It's coming.
In November, it's coming. Yeah, going to be plenty of lefties out there trying to imitate Jaylen Low. Good luck. This guy's pretty skilled. So we'll see how it plays out. But again, guys, we'll have you covered with all the transfers, not just Kentucky, but any SEC basketball transfers out there. We'll do our videos on the notable ones, so we appreciate you. As always, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button as well. Turn on your notifications so you know when we go live to talk SEC basketball or with new transfer videos. So we appreciate you watching. We'll talk to you soon. Southeastern 16.